So what happened with Harbaugh and the Vikings, best you can tell?
As best I can tell from the sources I've talked to, Jim Harbaugh went up to Minnesota with the expectation that he was going to get an offer to be the head coach there. And people I had talked to in the building were convinced that Jim Harbaugh was going to jump at it. And then something over the course of this extensive interview process, and I was told something seemed to have gone wrong around 3:00. Things kind of soured. And I have not gotten a great answer on what exactly that was that kind of turned things, but he did not get offered the job and is going back to Michigan, obviously.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in. Yeah, he is going back to Michigan. And a lot of people are mad about it. That's Bruce Feldman on the Rich Eisen show. We're talking about Jim Harbaugh's situation. Working those phones and talking about what he knew about it to the best of his knowledge. And there you go. So we take you to this weekend here on this afternoon live. We're here every weekday at 1:00 talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And, somebody sent me a DM yesterday saying, you can talk about anything except Jim Harbaugh. It's like, well, no, he made a good point. No, I haven't really, but, it's kind of been top of mind. So it's not going to happen every single day. Although today, it's still, up there as the whatever you want to call it, fallout or the, picking up the pieces, moving forward, putting that behind you, all of it, still happening, into today. I don't think by, Monday, we'll be sitting here going back and talking about National Signing Day and what happened in Minneapolis with Harbaugh and company, but still have a few thoughts. And if you're watching here and you want to, have it, you got a question, you got a point, you want to put it up there, you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, I'll read your statement and, we'll go from there. We've got some good stuff in the Michigan recruiting spotlight, some video that we'll be looking at. I say breaking down. I'm going to watch it and I'm going to talk about it. And I've also got some cool things and a deck of cards with Michigan and memorabilia. And I'll touch on the basketball team as well. They got a doozy tomorrow, and yeah, heading in doesn't look great for them, but they're looking for one of those signature wins, a real statement, and they could make that as early as tomorrow, at about 26 hours away. As they'll get a chance to do that in West Lafayette against the Boilers. But let's start with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, you can believe what you want, when it comes down to it. And it's one of these things when you have, the NFL with coaching searches, there's a lot more transparency when it comes to what's going on there. In college, a lot more secretive. And then you have Jim Harbaugh, who's secretive as well, not using the services of an agent. So you get some things that are going to be, muddied up there. And everybody knows the bottom line and that, he's back here. But you know what? You can believe what you want. You can believe that Jim Harbaugh would have never gotten on that plane if he didn't have a verbal agreement, to be the next coach of the Minnesota Vikings. You say, well, is that really what Minnesota did? Verbal agreement. Could Jim Harbaugh have held the Minnesota Vikings, Wednesday, said, hey, we had a verbal agreement here. Was the verbal agreement about, control? Was the verbal agreement about money? Were those parameters, that they talked about, that they just had to go over there and, just had to go over there and put his John Hancock in a 9-hour interview and, it was all going to be good. I heard Feldman saying there about midway, it was kind of like, Jim, whatever happened. And so, you speculate on what happened. Do I think that, and I'll just give you my thoughts here. Like, I thought, Jim Harbaugh, he should have been pretty confident. The Vikings wanted him, the general manager. I was going to make the call on who's going to be the head coach. What do you think that conversation was like? Jim, we get a pretty good feeling about this here. We've interviewed everybody. You're the last guy coming in. So come on down here, a guy that's been to the Super Bowl. These other guys, come on. Can you recite their names? Nobody even knows who they are. So come on in. I don't know how far that verbal agreement went, but Jim, when he was up in the air, his feeling about what was going on there, even though Saturday morning are still like, Jim might think this is a foregone conclusion, but the Vikings don't. I just go back if this was a Lions situation, you follow all of the gymnastics from the Lions front office over the years. If the Lions were if they were having a coaching search and they had a brand new GM, let's just say it was Brad Holmes, and let's just say it was Sheila Hamp, the current owner there. And, they'd have Rod Wood, and they're all going to be in on the interview process. But are you really going to listen to what Rod Wood has to say? Are you really, of course, the owner is going to put their 2 cents in. But if you're an owner, and you're an owner, you've got the money. You're a really football person. You have hired a football person. Are you really, if you're Sheila Hamp, going to tell Brad Holmes to bring it in like, we don't want, we hired you to run this football team, but your most important hire, we're going to sabotage it. We're going to give you our 2 cents, but you know what? We're going to give you more than that. You're not going to be able to make the hire. Now, you're telling me this general manager that brought Jim Harbaugh in and knows Jim Harbaugh, knows everything about that, was going to bring him in and be like, so a messy situation when it came in there. And you know what? I could sit here and talk about scenarios, all day long. Maybe Jim came in and knew that he had $70 million guaranteed in his back pocket, at Michigan, just waiting there for his John Hancock, had a contract. The Maize and Blue Review, Josh Henschke, who's out there working on who's going to be the next defensive coordinator, he reported that contract was approved, ready to go, and it was just awaiting Jim Harbaugh's signature. So, you got to be pretty confident when you're Jim Harbaugh. You've been to the Super Bowl. You've seen the other candidates. You know who they are. And you got this $70 million tucked in your back pocket, and you just sit down there and say, all right, let's go. And then the Vikings start saying, oh, wait a second. We're going to want you to wear some purple khakis. I don't know, whatever it was. Harbaugh, for his part, we've got some quotes here from Jim Harbaugh. Let's read some of those and go through them here. There he is. Harbaugh. He talked to Mitch Albom. We're going to go ahead and believe Mitch Albom that actually he did talk with Jim Harbaugh here. We know in the past that Mitch is sometimes is skirted of the truth and in quotes and things like that. But he deserves that, even though he's at the very top of the food chain here, media-wise. He still deserves that. All right, here's the quotes from Jim. There was a tugging at me that I was once that close to a Super Bowl and I didn't get it. Some NFL jobs came open. I was contacted by the Vikings for better or for worse. It was something that I wanted to explore. I love that statement. We can sit around talking about that all day long, for better or for worse. More from Harbaugh here. For those that are listening on the podcast, that was me interjecting the quote. Inside this quote, here's the continuation of Harbaugh. I went in thinking, I'm going to have 100% conviction on this. And if they have 100% conviction on this, then it's something I'm going to do. So if Jim Harbaugh liked how that meeting went, that interview went, sounds like he was going to, not only entertain, he was going to go and he was going to be the next Vikings coach. But like many a job interview, somewhere in the process, he got a sinking feeling. It was all good. A first-class operation, Harbaugh said. First-class people. But there wasn't an equal match of enthusiasm. And for a man whose catchphrase is an enthusiasm unknown to mankind, well, that stuff matters. All right, it's a little bit of Mitch involved in there. But there you go, the soap opera from Jim Harbaugh and some of his comments there that he made. So for better or for worse, and when you have a lot of sports talk and you have a lot of people that are not Michigan fans, or you have people that are kind of like scorned Michigan fans, they want to bring it, to Jim Harbaugh and get after him, really criticize him. And you know what? Sometimes I feel like criticizing. It's not that I feel like criticizing. Sometimes I look at a situation and, even if it's a Michigan situation, I feel like, I gotta be critical of something here. With Harbaugh and this situation, I think it had a lot to do with last year. Last year they went through the first signing period where they signed, whatever 20 players or something, and he was going through the contract situation, and he was going through the NFL coaching cycle here. That's the way it looked. I mean, it smelled like it. It looked like it. I thought he was doing it. Michigan people don't think that he was doing it. The reports were from, the Michigan insiders that, that's not what was going on last year, that, Jim had promised 7 years and he was not looking at the NFL, but that's exactly what it looked like last year. And I remember my feelings are a lot like what people were saying, over this last week, like Jim Harbaugh's holding Michigan, hostage, and Ward Manuel's more worried about money than he is the Michigan football program. Jim Harbaugh is more worried about going to the NFL or money or leverage than he is for the Michigan football program. And if every single thing, matters when it comes down to recruiting, like, what, you might milk a cow, to get into a favor of a 17-year-old where they might want to commit. Well, why in the hell on the first signing day would you be out, in some kind of contract squabble? Yeah, I mean, I was ticked off last year, but this particular season, that he went through, if you follow the recruiting, you saw that, this class was already done. That, the one guy that they were still going for, Connerly Jr., had said the day before signing day on Tuesday, put out a tweet, 6:30, said, I'll see you in March. I'm not making a decision tomorrow. So, Michigan's still in on Connerly Jr., so we'll see how that plays out. But we had also seen from at least 2 players that said, hey, you know what? If, Harbaugh said that this is exactly what he was going to do. So he just told the players, let the administration know he was going on. It didn't hurt recruiting. And he was going to take a look. And for me, I would, and I said this over the last couple of weeks, I was not going to be angry and like, oh, Jim, you're a jerk. And, I thought you loved Michigan and everything else. You understand that part from, people that love Michigan, that they were going to be scorned a little bit here and that they were going to go after them and use like the National Signing Day thing that I just said. But, I just explained that. But you know what? If somebody wants to, go look at another job and they think that it's better, like, who are you? What are we, really talking about here? And you know what? When you get to the business of college football and in the NFL, they're the same game, but it's vastly different. NFL's this machine that will eat up college. They don't care. It's just like when Michigan, if they would have lost Harbaugh, Michigan wouldn't have cared whoever they wanted to bring in if they were currently coaching somewhere else. Hell, let's just say it was Matt Campbell. Do you think they really, cared about the people in Ames that were like, oh, they're going to be upset? I mean, college football is a, dog eat dog. And, so, Jim Harbaugh is not any different when it comes down to this. And you might say, well, yeah, he is different. He wasn't like Brian Kelly, over there eating ribs with a recruit while, the text messages were coming in, not telling anybody and Bolton and everything. But you know what? That's par for the course. Lincoln Riley, made a name for himself at Oklahoma. Took the giant suitcases of cash and went to California. And people are like, yeah, that's college football. Oh, we can sit here just this year and name another 4 or 5. So I was never like, I saw everybody, breathless, like Jim Harbaugh. And I'm like, all right, I was all right with it. And yeah, you know what? You can say, well, I would have been disappointed. I would have been disappointed for Michigan football because what they had done last year and how the situation is right now, looking, towards next year, there should be a lot of enthusiasm for the program for what they did last year, how they did in recruiting, how they did at the transfer portal. I mean, they're a top 10 team heading into next year with a real manageable schedule. And what looks like on paper is a hell of an offense. So, that's the way I was looking at it. So when it comes down to, well, you're going to just believe Jim, who, had told some people that, not reporters, but, some, connected Michigan people that, he did have a verbal agreement? Or are you going to believe a GM or, the pro side who, got a meddling owners here? You got to just make that determination yourself, whatever you want to believe. I told you how I thought it played out right there. I don't think Jim was blown away, during the meeting. His expectation, the expectation for what the Vikings wanted, that didn't meet. Sometimes that happens. You can sit around in a Zoom, but when you get face to face and you use a couple other things, push come to shove, pen to paper, all those kind of things, and you really want to go, like everything needed to be perfect. I think for Jim, and it wasn't. And maybe on the other side, could both of those things be true? That, Jim thought something, the Vikings thought something, but they were still getting together. And then, both of them just didn't have the feeling. I mean, sometimes the one side, is really in and the other side not. But sometimes, you don't have that chemistry and all those things, and it breaks down. Like Mitch was saying, in his piece there. So, so the best I can tell, those are some of the things that went down. Let's get some Russian bots coming in, but we also have a couple points here from Antoine, who's weighing in here. Antoine asking why Michigan is so reluctant to dive into the nil with their academic standards, also holding them back. They will only fall further behind in recruiting and make winning it all even harder. Well, the best I can tell, reluctant to dive in with the NIL. Michigan has put themselves like, most of the other teams in the Big Ten. They have looked at the landscape of college football. This is before the NIL got in, and said, you know what, we're not going to pay players under the table. I mean, it's, technically against the rules, and everybody else in college football, however they were doing it, through a third person, through a pastor, through an agent, finding money, funneling money somewhere to the players. It'd say, hey, you guys are cheating. They're like, nobody cares. We all know that the players deserve the money. Nobody cares except you guys up there. And Michigan was like, we care. We care about paying the players. And then so when they were like, the NCAA was finally, when they got into it, it's like, you know what? You shouldn't care. Everybody can. And everybody that, was doing it and had their own NIL before this. And, now Michigan, they are reluctant. That's why I believe they are reluctant to just jump in and say, hey, let's do the very thing all of these years we said we weren't going to do, even though it's now legal. Let's kind of tiptoe through this. We're not jumping headlong into this. And you could say that's the name of the game. Well, you could make the case that was the name of the game before this year, and that nobody cared, even though it was technically illegal. Nobody cared. And you got criticized when you lost, and, the victors goes the spoils, and, everything that's got going on. I think that's why they are reluctant, were reluctant, and maybe still reluctant to just jump on in and say, yeah, you know what? We're ready to cut the checks. Now they got a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and maybe with Harbaugh coming back, Harbaugh's going to say, look, did you like what went on in Indianapolis? Did you like that trip down to Miami? You want to keep this thing going? Let's cut some checks. Let's get the boosters involved. Let's get our donors. Those how much ever money it costs to take a trip to South America or to Normandy and Paris and all the dining and food. Let's give that money to the players. Michigan had their own. That was kind of an NLI deal. It was on the up and up, but you know what? Now when it's actual cash, can they make that leap? I don't know, Antoine. That's interesting. And the academic thing, I say it as simply as this: like, I didn't go to Michigan, but the people that go to Michigan, it's a really hard school to get into. And when you talk about transferring credits, how that's going to affect the overall perception of Michigan as an academic institution, I don't exactly know. You can say, well, it's just for the football program or for sports. Who cares? They want to be the best there. But it could factor in their rankings and different things, which are really important, to Michigan grads. Oh, I could sit here and tell you, I wish that the players didn't have to go to school and that they would, pretty much let anybody in, and, try to give them assistance and everything else. But, but that's not how it's done. That's not what they think. There are a lot of people that, think differently about that. So we'll see. I think the NLI thing's a lot easier to convince than, the academic stuff. But, that's me, Antoine. I'll see. You're talking about a holy horse. I don't know if it's, maybe when it comes down to that, when you've done something for forever and you really have the idea like, look, that's just not what we want to do. And then when people are saying, hey, you can do it, it's hard. I don't know what the analogy would be for that. I mean, maybe all those years with people that look down their nose at like people smoking pot. It's illegal. You'll go to jail. And people are saying, well, it's not as bad as alcohol. That whole argument. And now that it's, the people that were always like, never, that's for the devil, and now that it's legal, that people just like, oh, the hell of it, let's go. Or there's still some people that reluctant, maybe, I don't know, comparing, pot smoking and Michigan academics. There you go. So I don't know, Antoine. That's what I think. Those are at least my thoughts on it. So that's it. Antoine finally saying he thinks the biggest difference between Michigan and Ohio is the fact that Ohio is willing to give their staff and team all the resources they need, and they're obsessed with beating us, and we're not all in. Well, I mean, there you go, Antoine. You could be right in all the things that you're saying there, but there you go. Antoine's thoughts. That's how it's done. See, Antoine with a number of different things typing in and coming after. We do have more here. Michael, how would Bo handle this if he and the AD, Jim, the coach, would Bo welcome him back? So if you're saying with Bo who, let me think that through, because Bo, when he was the athletic director and Bill Frieder was the coach of Michigan, and Bill Frieder was going to leave at the end of the year, agreed to a contract with Arizona State. Bo came in famously and fired Bill Frieder and said, a Michigan man is going to coach Michigan. And, and the Michigan fans loved it. And, oh, yeah, Steve Fisher went on and, ripped off the 5-6 wins, whatever, 6 wins to win the national championship. And, the rest is history. Michigan man. I'm going to coach Michigan. Well, you know what? Things change and things evolve. Would Bo? I think Bo would have tried to do. Bo himself, took a look at Texas A&M in the early '80s, and took a look at what they had to say. So he entertained an offer. Ultimately, he didn't take it. And I think that's what it comes back to here. Look, I know, I like Michigan myself. Like, I remember I started working, Michigan's not like the biggest market. The Ann Arbor, I'll just say it, radio market's not like the biggest. It's looked at as a small market. But when I worked in Ann Arbor radio, I thought it was the very top. I would have never left. I was like, I would have stayed there. This is the greatest thing ever. Michigan football is the greatest thing ever. But not everybody thinks that. And Jim even said it in his comments there that he gave to Mitch. The biggest prize is the Super Bowl. And for him, it was his last chance to take a look at it. And if all of those things would have meant, like, say, go ahead. Tom Izzo, who's looked at favorably, even from Michigan fans most of the time, went and flirted with the Cavs and thought about, but, he went back to Michigan State. John Beilein went, and I don't know how serious the talks were with the Pistons, but, the Pistons wanted John Beilein. Everybody's like, John Beilein's not going to go coach the Pistons? That'd be ridiculous. I didn't like the idea either. Like, as being a Michigan fan and a Pistons fan, no. But you know what? He came back to Michigan and had a good a good season, and then he went to the Cavs. But you know what? As disappointing as that was, it was disappointing because you know what? Michigan basketball had perked up where they were relevant. They were going to the tournament, going, making runs, and it was fun. And John Beilein seemed like the perfect college coach, the perfect Michigan coach, the professor. When he first came in, people were calling him Dr. Strange Hoops because he was relying so much on, volume threes. Said things like rebounding doesn't really matter. Like what? Rebounding really doesn't matter. It's getting a lot of shots off. People thought he was crazy. And you know what? He was the first one. I don't know. John Beilein was ahead of his time. So yeah, it happens. But you get a lot of people like, look, Michigan State fans want Jim Harbaugh to be criticized. In the national media, you understand Jim Harbaugh is a lightning rod. I mean, I listened to what Paul Feinbaum had to say, and you know what? Yeah, like most people say, like Paul Feinbaum's an SEC guy. Paul Feinbaum's from the South, sure, and he's an entertainer. And Jim Harbaugh's a really easy target because he came in and shook up the establishment, and then he didn't win it all. And people are like, this guy's so it's and people. They like to go after him because he's a lightning rod. He's always got, things going on. He's tipping up the saucers and things are smashing on the floor. I mean, there's a lot of controversy that's going on whenever Jim Harbaugh is around. It's not a nice, easy, let's just sit back and be like, yeah, he's always got a lot of things. He's making waves. He's rocking the boat. So I listened, and what did, Feinbaum was like, this is a joke on National Signing Day. Well, was it a joke? The class was all in. He told, the recruits what was going to happen. The state fans were so upset when how about, the media here in Detroit, rips on Harbaugh because D'Antonio's fans all hated him at the end. They wanted him out. Michigan fans don't want Jim Harbaugh out. And you know what? Back then, you didn't have the transfer portal. So D'Antonio was staying around for money, some kind of a contract clause, or if he stayed around to a certain date, once he got the cash in his back pocket, he bolted. And yeah, I criticized him because you know what? It sucked for those kids. If there was not a transfer portal and Jim Harbaugh on Wednesday would have just left high and dry, I would have said, you know what it sucks for? It sucks for Michigan. It sucks for the kids that came to Michigan, under the guise that he was going to be their head coach. But apparently, there's at least two other players. When they asked him, he told them, yeah, I'm going to look. I'm going to entertain the offer. So you wonder if, Michigan could have drawn a few other players in if Jim would have lied. So let's go back to some of the feedback here. Here's this Russian bot that comes in every day. If anybody's got a little Russian, you guys hear every day. I think that's Russian. Maybe he's giving me, what are my thoughts on the Olympics? I don't know what he's saying. Irvin, I understand if they were following the rules when it was illegal, but now that it's legal, they should go all in and bring U of M football back. Well, I think you and the football fans and I think the majority of just Michigan football fans, I think they agree with you. I mean, these are the terms. These are the rules now. You can play with them or, you can try to stay with what you believed before when now that, you don't have any spot to stand and say, well, we're not getting involved in that. I thought it was interesting on National Signing Day, the two coaches that have the best recruiting. And yeah, Nick Saban was like, we don't do any of this. And you know what? Nick Saban's got it going great. Of course, Nick Saban didn't want this, like everything that was going perfectly for him. And of course, he didn't want this to change. And, old Billy Bob Cooter, whoever his name is there at Texas A&M, he couldn't have been any more. What do you mean we're paying everybody? We're not paying anybody. That's all. Those numbers aren't right. So whatever, it comes down to it. It's still there. It's still under the table here. There, the operations and exactly what's going on and the monies that are going to the players. You could say, "Well, this is a real joke." College football has become a joke. Well, you know what? It was more of a joke prior to this because it was happening. It was happening. We all know that it was happening. How it was happening, exactly. We get a pretty good idea. If I was a really good football player and I was 17 years old, they weren't just walking up to me. Some teams, like apparently Tennessee, would just hand the kid over a bag of cash in a McDonald's bag. And they got caught red-handed that way. But what it seemed to be is that my uncle belonged to a church, and that church would get $1 million renovation. Yeah, million to the church, 500, to the pastor, couple years. That's how it was done. The way it seemed like it was done. Give it to the next person. There it is. Irvin's last one. We had Michael following the rules. Trepa getting in. The athletes at Michigan don't necessarily have to meet the same academic qualifications of the average student at the university. That's true. You're right. So they made that concession. And so now there's an additional concession that comes down to transfer credits. And, as many people, the funny part about when it comes to academics and admissions, mostly, Michigan's not much different than most of the other teams in the Big Ten. If you can get into, I think Northwestern is different, but the rest of the 13 schools, I think if you can get into Michigan, you can pretty much get into Michigan State. I don't know if there's that much difference. I know there's a lot. You don't know what you're talking. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But maybe when it comes down to the, those transcripts and, how much they're looking at, I don't know how much they're looking at that. I know there's a perception that, like Michigan's like Vanderbilt or Northwestern or Stanford or something. Like, you better be in the top 1% of the class or you're not getting in. Now, I think you're right. But now this is something different again. So, you're right, Trepa. I'm not putting that up there. That's fun. I was putting the Russian bot up, but now I think I'm getting some like triple X sites, and they want me to put that up there. Thanks for the feedback here. A couple more. Paul Feinbaum, no one cares about him. He's an avid Michigan hater. No one cares about his Poindexter-looking self. Do you expect him to be impartial with his lame comments? I don't really expect anybody. The one thing, if you keep in mind that, Paul Feinbaum is an entertainer and that, ESPN is, that he was born, worked, continues to. I mean, he is an SEC guy. And, the SEC, let's be honest, the SEC still, like, how many ever years you want to go back, 10, 15? I mean, they have dominated college football. So it's a very easy position to be in. So, him being an avid Michigan hater, Paul Feinbaum looks out there, hey, what's going to be popular here? What's going to, stir the pot here? You know what? When you're talking about Antoine, it's like you say impartial, people don't really want impartiality. Columnists, you're supposed to be that way. When you sit up in the press box, they indicate, no cheering in the press box. But for the most part, fans, they want you taken up, for their team. And Paul Feinbaum, like, when I watched yesterday, I don't watch sit around watching. I used to tape not so many years ago. I would tape Sunday morning. Feinbaum was on really early on SportsCenter. He was entertaining to me. Andy talked about, gave a lot of opinions, sat around watching college football all day. I liked what he was bringing to the table. When it came to Michigan, I knew what he was doing. It's poking you. I remember the late Drew Sharp used to write stuff about Michigan all the time. It wasn't, it was a joke. Like, it was always the same thing. Michigan sucks. Michigan's never going to beat the SEC, blah, blah, blah. And I say, Drew, you're a one-trick pony. It's like, that trick pony works. He's like, I'm a 2-trick pony. I rip the Lions too. And he's like, I always will. I'm like, well, what if you? He's like, it always works. There's no reason to go anywhere else. And people say, I'm going to flood the editor's, inbox with all this criticism. They love it. The editor's like, oh, we got 1,000 emails about how much they hate your column about Michigan. Yeah, he writes something about like being impartial about the Big Ten, and nobody's saying it. You want a bunch of people to hate you and love you, and up here everybody hates Finebaum. They love him in the SEC. But come on. Do you think Ward Manuel is weak compared to other ADs? Now, I think you mean weak like, not the pipes like I got here that I'm showing you. Dato sending me messages here to other ADs. Well, you know what? If being the athletic director is a bottom line business, and I'll just say the bottom line is this: basketball and football. It's what the majority of people care about. Ward Manuel hired Juwan Howard. In his first year, I gave Juwan Howard an A. Last year, I gave him, if I gave him the first year maybe an A-. Last year, I gave him an A. 2 A's. This year, he's been a C. But, he's made a really good hire in Juwan Howard. I still believe in Juwan Howard. I think he's doing a really good job. Not this year. We'll get to that coming up. But, and now football-wise, last year, he slashed Jim Harbaugh's contract. I know that's a sticking point a lot of people like to bring up, but that was a Michigan-friendly contract. He was applauded. Hey, incentivize, beating Ohio State and winning the Big Ten and getting to the college football playoff. That's the way it should be done. And then this time around, he's delivering Jim Harbaugh again with another contract. And what it sounds like is that Michigan just didn't hand Jim Harbaugh a blank check. They did not say, hey, you know what? We're not just going to go over Mel Tucker because, the Spartans gave him $95 million. This doesn't mean you're just getting $100 million. So he gave him another, a going, right? It's not like it went on the cheap or anything, but he didn't go way overboard either. So Ward Manuel is win-win-win from what I've seen. Now look, Jim Harbaugh loves the whining and dining and the purple and yellow roses that, the Vikings could have thrown at him. He would have lost out. He could have just said, hey, Jim just wanted to go to the NFL. But no, I think Ward from that, it ends up being a bottom line when it comes down there. Harbaugh comes back. Ward looks pretty good. A friend of mine, this is from Irvin, who played for Michigan, was offered by other schools a Jeep to play for them and was offered nothing from Michigan. Dato, don't you think Ward Manuel is weak? I think I answered that one. Who do I think Michigan's next defensive coordinator will be? Well, I hope it's Larry Foote Jr. Larry Foote Jr. was tabbed to go with Byron Leftwich to Jacksonville, but Leftwich didn't want to go work for Trent Baalke and the Jags. So they went out, Jacksonville, and hired Doug Peterson, who was at Philadelphia. And so the offensive coordinator still with Tampa, and Foote was expected to go with Leftwich. But he's number one on the list right now, to me. And look, you can say I'm biased. Like, it's not like Larry Foote Jr. is my friend or anything, but he did, when I worked in Ann Arbor, he played at Michigan. And I remember his recruitment, he said the thing that stood out, whether it was his coach or it could have been his dad. He said, Larry Foote, when he plays, he brings the wood. He brings the wood. Like, you feel like you've been smacked with a 2x4. That's the way he hits. It always stayed with me. And Foote was a really good player at Michigan. And he went on to have fantastic success. He's from Pershing. He's from Detroit. I was going to say he seems like a great guy. I didn't sit with him, but I talked with him at a charity event a few years ago. And there weren't many people there. We were like one of the first ones. I was like, hey, Foote, what's going on? I didn't say Foote. What's going on, Larry? And, he had his Super Bowl ring on from the Steelers. And I'm like, man, that thing. And you know what? He took it off. He said, he handed it to me. And I got to look at Larry Foote Jr.'s Super Bowl ring. I'm like, this is sweet. He's like, it's sweet. I break it out for special occasions. And then he went on and won another one as a coach. So he could come out, bring the one as the player, bring another one as the coach, just kind of come walk in. You know, I like Larry Foote Jr., so that would be my guess. Or that's my desire. Some others, the defensive coordinator from Vanderbilt would be somebody that you might want to keep an eye on when it comes down. Jesse Minter is his name. That would be another one. But, you know, like it's kind of the same thing with head coaches. Like, you know, with Harbaugh going to Minnesota, he sat down, and if they don't meet their enthusiasm, you know, Harbaugh's got about 10 guys there. And if he talks to them and they want to come in, well, what's your ideas? What do you want to do? Does that marry up? So just because I'm throwing some names out, I mean, these are the guys that I would talk to. And then it would be pretty easy with Larry Foote, what he's accomplished. And, you know, the Buccaneers linebackers were awesome last year. I mean, Devin White and, you know, who's the other linebacker there? You know, he's got the same first name, two first names. You know, Devontae David. Awesome linebackers, but, you know, they were really good. I would like Levante David. Is that who that is? He coached, you know, the linebackers were awesome last year during the playoff run. So he's got that going for him. And like I said, it seemed like he'd be a great recruiter. He walk down to Detroit and just go like this. Hey, there's the jewelry. Let's go. All right. Thanks for the feedback. I love it. Thought I was only going to talk for 20 minutes today. So it'd be short. Give some thoughts on Harbaugh, hit basketball, and then move on. It's not the way it went here today. Let's get to what else are we getting to? Well, we got a few things that we wanted to show you. We got to get to the Michigan recruiting spotlight. And for that, tomorrow down in Dexter, there's a running back that is set to make his commitment at his high school, and his name is Cole Cabana. And Cole Cabana, see if I can bring up, there he is. The thing about 5'11", 175, let's watch a little of this video together here, if we can. That's Cole Cabana. And yeah, I want to sing at the Cabana. He's making his announcement. Zach Libby, who works recruiting for us here at the Maize and Blue Review, has put in a future cast. Oh, my watch is talking to me. I was like, "What's going on there?" There you see him getting into the end zone here. This is a long 8-minute highlight package here of Cole Cabana, but the thing that you want to know about him when you're looking at this, and however you think and what you know about being able to project high school running backs to college, you know, 175, it said there in his Twitter page, he's up to 181, but he's got legit speed. It almost looks like it's in, you know, fast forward there, how quickly he got into the end zone, but he has been timed. He's got legit under 4.4 speed. I mean, let's wait and see, but some of this stuff, look, when you're going, he looks like a man amongst boys there when he's taking it in. And, you know, this is a nice catch. You get him in and out of the backfield. I would say, you know, put a little weight on him, a little bit shorter of Donovan Edwards. I'd love to see him and Donovan Edwards, if he does commit, and just, you know, you think about, you know, the possibility of the speed that Cabana would have, and you get him some daylight and he's gone. You know what? Did he just do a Tyreek Hill there? It looked like he had a peace sign. Should have been flagged there for unsportsmanlike conduct. I think that's what's going on. Would he be the fastest player immediately on the Michigan football team? Well, if he has legit 4.35 speed, maybe. Like I said, let's put him up against Donovan Edwards and who else? Roman Wilson, Andrell Anthony. Maybe incoming corner Will Johnson. I don't know how fast he is, but I mean, this is somebody that, Michigan is feeling like they got a really good shot at, getting tomorrow. Yeah, it seems like it is sped up right here. And Michigan only has 4 scholarship running backs right now. Remember, they were in on Andrew Paul on National Signing Day, but he went to Georgia. They got C.J. Stokes out of South Carolina, who is, committed and will be a freshman next year. I mentioned Donovan Edwards, who will be a true sophomore. And then we're talking about, Blake Corum, Tavier Dunlap, a bigger guy. Just saw a little bit of Tavier. I don't know what. Tavier. Yeah, we saw a little bit of him. So, does the speed, if you didn't know that, Cabana had this 4.4, sub 4.4 speed, would you look at him and say, boy, he looks really fast? Yeah, you try to say, well, what's kind of the competition here? Like it looked like on that particular one, I might have been able to get into the end zone. I mean, like right now. Not on that one. You at least had to get around the edge. I'd have been tackled for a loss there. Let's see here. I probably would have tackled there too. I'd have been so tired at this point. I'd have had to, needed some oxygen. That seemed like some pretty good deception there. They went right up to the middle. I mean, does this say that he could run maybe between the tackles? No, I mean, he's a light guy, but he's got the super speed. And super speed kills. I got to imagine Josh Gaddis is sitting around saying, are you kidding me? This is speed in space. Josh Gaddis is putting the circles on the screen saying, come on. It's an impressive highlight package, though. I mean, a lot of these, he's untouched. He's going to catch the ball here. Oh, we got I like it. A little grainy. Throw it up for grabs. Cabana makes the call. I'll tell you what, short yardage in high school, he's money. Give him the ball. This is what I like from his own 30. He's gone. You see that speed, get him out there. Although let's save. Well, he got tackled at the 1. That first one, you know what? Cole, I'd have left that one out. I'd have left that particular highlight off. Here's another one from the 40. If he gets caught here, he's at midfield. He's at the 40, the 30, the 25, and he did get caught. Credit the defenders there. How about that? All right, so that's the Michigan recruiting spotlight as it has happened. I like the one quote that I seen earlier today from Rich Eisen, who asked a question on his show. How does Michigan put the maize and blue toothpaste back in the tube? I'm not as worried as seemingly as everybody else is. I think the fans were understandably, blasting Jim a little bit, about because, they were worried that he was going to be gone. And then that's what you do. I never liked him anyways. And, this is holding Michigan hostage. And I agree with Paul Feinbaum, all these different things, but now, and, Jim gets out there and maybe has a spring game, and it's a warm day, the maize and blue, you'll be back. I think the maize and blue is already back in the tube. In the tube, like who's really holding the grudge? If you didn't like him before, and then of course, I don't think this is going to be like, oh yeah, well this is great. But I think if you liked Jim Harbaugh before and you thought he was the best for the program, and no, you didn't like what happened this week, when you get ready to have this next contract, you put enough of a buyout in there. And plus what Jim said, and that would be, well, I have the quotes here. I had them in that Free Press article. Quote from Harbaugh, this will not be a reoccurring thing. Quote from Jim Harbaugh, this was a one-time thing. That's what he told the Free Press last night. this will not be a reoccurring thing. This was a one-time thing. So if Jim Harbaugh, let's say it was the greatest news of all, Michigan went out next year and went to the college football playoff and got to the championship game, and then the next year they got to the championship game and won it. They won a championship and won the Big Ten for 3 years in a row. And Jim Harbaugh, I don't know who would come after him. Let's say the Dallas Cowboys, offered him $200 million, and Jim Harbaugh took it. $200 million. They could say, you know what, Jim? I'm going to have to refer you to the quotes. In 2022, this will not be a reoccurring thing. This was a one-time thing, and everybody could say, hey, I'll give you $200 million. I mean, you're going to take it too. But then I think, you go back and you'd look at that point at this contract, and you might say something. All right, Cabana, you had enough of those highlights? Maybe you have. Let's go, and I had one more video for you. Yeah, here I am, Mr. Video now. This is good. It's before. I was like, how come I can't get any of the videos on here? Why don't I just go ahead and read how to do it? And I did. I wanted to show you, the Senior Bowl going on down in Mobile, the annually that goes down. Andrew Stueber from Michigan was in a drill here. Let's just get this inside the draft. Here's the play from Stueber. I can get it in here. I'm going to make it nice and big here. He's going up against, I want to center it, make it as big as I can here for you. And it looks like I'm being able to do that. This is Andrew Stueber going up against a Buckeye. What it looks like here. So I guess that isn't perfectly centered, is it? We're going to get the drift here. Here he is. Little Oklahoma drill. Take the Buckeye and send him into the ground. I hope he's not injured, although it looked like he did there a little bit. Fires off his stance at right guard into the ground. I don't know, was that holding, hands to the face? I don't know. Let's take a look and see if we can we slow it down? Nah, I just think that's just Stueber burying him into the ground. That's what it looked like to me. So there it is. All right, a couple of things. We get to Michigan. I got a memorabilia note for you. When it comes down to Michigan hoops, their tournament chances, I was looking at the Athletic today, and I have said this week that, if I had to pick right now if Michigan in the tournament, yes or no, will they make the tournament? It's no. And they're not in the tournament right now. We can all agree with that. And I still think they just have a very small chance at making it from what I've seen from the team here. The Athletic, they did a bracket type deal and, projecting just this morning. So I looked to see where Michigan was and where the Big Ten was sitting. The Big Ten with 7 teams, if Selection Sunday was today, including Iowa and Indiana getting in there. They had North Carolina on the line of first 4 out. I mentioned them because they're playing Duke and Coach K for the last time, wherever that game's being played. Last time either at Chapel Hill or in Durham. So that's a great rivalry, right? But the Tar Heels, who beat Michigan earlier this year, they're on the first 4 out line. They've got the next 4, and that's where Michigan's at. Michigan's not the first 4 out. They're not in the play-in game. They're not in the first 4 out. They're in the next 4. The first 8 out. 8 men out for Michigan. And they've got 11 games to go now with the rescheduled game against Michigan State. It's real easy for you to keep track of how Michigan's going to get in or not. They can only afford 4 more losses in those 11 games. I think one of those will be tomorrow against Purdue, but when you play a team, Purdue looks like they're the best team in the Big Ten. I wouldn't be surprised if I had to fill out a bracket today, I would put Purdue in the Final Four. So last time they were in the Final Four, 66 or something. I don't know, something like that, the 60s. I would pick the Boilermakers to get to the Final Four. That's what Michigan's up against tomorrow. But you know what? You beat Purdue on the road. Hey, you want to get into the first 4 out or get into that play-in game? You want to see your net rankings go up? You want a quad 1 win? You want to change the perception? You go out there and beat the Boilers. That's what I would do. Speaking of perception, Back in the early 2000s, when I worked in Ann Arbor, I got sent a deck of cards. And on each of the 52 cards, and I had a couple jokers in there as well, they would put Michigan football players. And John Navarre, quarterback at Michigan, he ends up being the 10 of spades. And you know what? The little dimple on his chin, not bad. Kind of looks like John Navarre. You see some of the quarterbacks, old Elvis is on there. He ends up getting the Queen of Hearts designation. And then, to be an ace, you got to be somebody like Gerald Ford is an ace. You want to be an ace? How about win the Heisman Trophy in the national championship? Charles Woodson, an ace. Desmond Howard, an ace. I just go through these for some of the perception. I like showing this one because I got an autograph from Ron Kramer. This one, the late Ron Kramer. All right. I bring this up because there's two quarterbacks I want you to guess. I've got Tom Brady's card, and I've got Jim Harbaugh's card. Now, you saw where Gerbach was the Queen of Hearts and John Navarre was the 10 of spades. These are how Harbaugh and Tom Brady were viewed by this in the early 2000s by the maker of this deck of cards. Jim Harbaugh. There's a pretty good likeness, actually, of old coach there. Harbaugh. If I asked you out there, who was the first Michigan quarterback to throw for 300 yards in a game? According to this card, had Michigan's first 300-yard passing game, 1986. I did not know that, but the 7 of hearts, the great Tom Brady. Where would you put Tom Brady in a deck of cards? Now, if you were making a deck of Michigan cards today, Tom Brady, he's going to be a face card. But at the time of this publication, Tom Brady, he did make the cut of 52 of the greatest Michigan players of all time. But the 8 of spades for Tom Brady, 96 to 99, what does it say about him? Had one of the finest seasons for a Michigan quarterback in 99, throwing for 20 TDs and only 6 picks. There he is, Tom Brady. It shows you, he did have a great season. 6th round pick, had a great Orange Bowl in 2000. Was not the MVP. David Terrell was, but Michigan fell behind 14 points twice there. That is the memorabilia minute. Oh, we're back to Stueber. I didn't even know I was doing that. Coming up on Monday, it's going to be a little different. It's not going to be all Harbaugh all the time. We'll start going position by position. And you know what? Where do you start when you go position by position? You start with the quarterbacks. So coming up on Monday, we'll talk some quarterbacks. Anything else that goes on with Michigan, we'll have it for you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for contributing on the feedback. I like that. That'll do it. Have a great weekend. I'll talk with you after the Michigan-Purdue game tomorrow. We'll talk Wolverine basketball. Jim Scarcelli will join me. Is it 2:30, 3:30, 4:30? Around 4:30, 4:45. Be there. See you later. Bye.